Right then, Hollywood loves selling you a story, and the story they sell you now, the one you tell your kids, is that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is a beloved, magical, family classic, grand. We all love the car, we all remember the songs, we all pretend we weren't permanently traumatized by the child catcher, but that, lads, is a story. It's a load of all guff. The real story, the one with the carry-on, the one they don't put in the sing-along special, is that in 1968, some of the biggest, most successful names in Hollywood, completely drunk on their own success, tried to build the next Mary Poppins. And instead, they made a film so colossally expensive, so bizarrely long, and so terrifyingly weird, it became one of the biggest financial bombs of the decades. It was a monument to Egyptry. Come here to me, and I'll tell you about the $10 million flying car that nearly bankrupted its makers and scared a generation of children half to death. Now, to understand this glorious, beautiful Hames, you have to understand the mind of Albert Cubby Broccoli. Cubby, the man who was James Bond. By the mid-1960s, this fella wasn't just a producer, he was a king. He and his partner Harry Saltzman had turned 007 into the biggest phenomenon on the planet. Goldfinger. Thunderball. They weren't just making films, they were printing money. They had the Midas touch. But Cubby had notions. He was getting a bit tired of the spies and the killing and the women in bikinis. He wanted to make something respectable, something for the family. He looks at the market, and what does he see? He sees Mary Poppins in 1964, a film that saved Walt Disney's bacon. He sees The Sound of Music in 1965, a film so successful it literally saved 20th Century Fox from bankruptcy. These weren't just hits, they were cultural events. They were roadshow musicals. You'd book your tickets weeks in advance, you'd get a fancy program, there'd be an intermission. It was like going to the theatre, and audiences were eating it up. Cubby wanted in, he wanted one of his own, so he starts looking for a story. And wouldn't you know it, he finds a children's book written by Ian Fleming, the fella who wrote James Bond. Now, this wasn't a Bond book. Fleming had apparently written it as a bedtime story for his own son, Caspar. It was a whimsical little tale about a crackpot inventor and his magical car. A bit weird, but alright. Cubby snaps up the rights. This was his shot. And lads, on paper, the plan he put together, you couldn't fault it. It was perfect. A masterpiece of deal-making. First, the music. Who's the biggest name in musicals, he asks. Who did Mary Poppins? That would be the Sherman brothers, Richard and Robert. They were Walt Disney's personal hit factory. Cubby makes them an offer they can't refuse. They're in. Second, the star. Who's the biggest family star on the planet? Who was the star of Mary Poppins? That would be Dick Van Dyke. He's charming, he's goofy, he can sing, he can dance, he's perfect. Get him. They get him. Now, never mind that his Cockney accent in Poppins was voted the worst in the history of cinema. This time, they said, don't worry Dick, you can just be American. In the middle of rural England. It'll be fine. I will, yeah. Third, the script. Now, this is where it gets interesting. They need a screenwriter. Someone with a bit of imagination. So who do they get? Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl, the fella who wrote James and the Giant Peach and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But also the fella who wrote dark, twisted short stories for adults. And, in a bit of cross-promotion, the fella who had just written the screenplay for the latest Bond film, You Only Live Twice. This is a head the ball choice. You've hired the Sherman brothers to write the sweetest songs imaginable, and you've hired the darkest mind in children's literature to write the script. It's like mixing ice cream and engine oil. But the dream team wasn't finished. Who's gonna be the female lead? Well, they couldn't get Julie Andrews. So they got the next best thing, Sally Ann Howes, a brilliant Broadway star with a voice like an angel. Her character's name? Truly scrumptious. I am not joking. Who's gonna be the villain? Cubby's a genius. Get me Goldfinger, he says. So they hire Gert Freub, the fella who played Auric Goldfinger, to play the villain Baron Bombburst. Who's gonna design the film? Get me the Bond designer. Ken Adam, the man who built the volcano lair in You Only Live Twice and the war room in Doctor Strangelove. They get him. This yoke was meant to be the biggest masterpiece of all time. It was the Bond team making a Poppins movie. The studio, United Artists, just opened the wallet and told them to have at it. The budget was set at $10 million. $10 million in 1968. That is a budget so big it could choke a donkey. It was more expensive than 2001, A Space Odyssey. It was one of the most expensive films ever made, and it was about a flying car. What could possibly go wrong? Where do you even begin? The whole circus packs up and moves to England, and from day one, it is pure, unadulterated devilment. First, the car. They didn't just spend money on the car, they spent a fortune, an obscene amount. Ken, Adam, the designer, and the engineers, they didn't build one chitty. Oh no. That's for amateurs. They built 7 of the yokes. They had the main hero car, the one they drove around, they called it Gen 11. It was a custom-built 30-foot long monster. It wasn't a prop, it was a fully functional road-legal race car with a Ford V6 engine. It cost, wait for it, over £100,000. In 1967 money, that's more than 4 brand new Aston Martin DB6S. It was, at the time, the single most expensive film prop ever built. But they weren't done, they had another one that was just for the flying sequences. A lighter one they could lift with a crane. They had one for the floating scenes which they stuck on a boat. They had a dummy one for the hovercraft bits. They had one that was just a wreck for the beginning of the film. They had 2 more smaller, drivable versions. The entire production was obsessed with the car. It was beautiful, no doubt. It was also a $10 million film about a car, and they spent the first hour of the film just driving around. But the car wasn't the problem. The script. The script was an absolute dog's dinner. It's not a film, it's 2 films. 2 completely different films, made by 2 different sets of people that were just smashed together. The first film, the first hour and a half, is the Sherman Brothers movie. It is the most syrupy, sweet, saccharine, twee musical you have ever seen. It's Dick Van Dyke as Caractacus Potts, the worst inventor in the world. It's him and his 2 kids singing about breakfast. Hushabye Mountain, Me Oh Bamboo, and then Toot Sweets, Stop the Lights. Toot Sweets. This was their cynical, desperate attempt to recreate A Spoonful of Sugar. It's a 10-minute song and dance sequence about a bloody sweet. A whistle. It stops the entire film dead in its tracks so Dick Van Dyke can pretend to be a puppet on a string, dance with a load of dogs, and lead a factory full of fellas in a full-on marching band routine. It's brilliantly staged. It's also endless. You're sitting there, an hour into the film, checking your watch, and they're still singing about the bloody sweets. The entire first half is just this. It's lovely. It's colourful. It's set in the beautiful English countryside. And it is achingly slow. And then, just when you're about to fall asleep in your popcorn, Roald Dahl wakes up. The film takes a hard left turn into a fever dream. The whole family, Potts, Truly, the kids, and Grandpa fly the car to a magical faraway land called Vulgaria. And this is where the Egyptry begins. Vulgaria, designed by the James Bond fella, is a dark, gothic, German-inspired nightmare. It's ruled by Baron Bombburst. That's Gert Goldfinger Frobe doing a mad German accent, and he's a giant spoiled man-child who's obsessed with toys. His wife, the Baroness, is a woman who hates children. And what's their big song together? Choo Chee Face. A love song where the Baron tries to murder his wife. He tries to shoot her with a cannon, he tries to drop an anchor on her, he tries to blow her up with dynamite, and she's singing You're My Cuddly Wuddly. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. It's not for kids. It's for... I don't know who it's for. The entire plot of Vulgaria is that children are illegal. They're forbidden. The Baron and Baroness can't stand them. So if any children are found, they are dealt with. And who, you ask, deals with them? This brings us to him, the child catcher. I mean, what were they thinking? They hired a fella named Robert Helpman. He wasn't just an actor, he was a world famous ballet dancer, a knight of the realm. And they put him in a black Undertaker's coat, a greasy black wig, a top hat, and a giant prosthetic nose that could sniff out children from a mile away. He doesn't walk, he glides, he skulks, he moves like a spider. And his job is to wander the empty, gothic streets of Vulgaria, sniffing the air for any hidden children. And when he finds them, he doesn't just catch them, he lures them. He drives a carriage that turns into a giant, colourful cage. And he skips around, ringing a bell, singing this high, nasal, terrifying voice. Lollipops, ice cream, all free today. And the stupid kids who've been locked in a basement their whole lives come running out. And this ghoul snatches them. He throws them in the back of his cage, covers them with a giant net, and cackles as he drives them off to the Baron's dungeon. Stop the lights. This isn't a kids' film, this is a public service announcement about not talking to strangers dressed up as a musical. This is pure unadulterated nightmare fuel, set to a jaunty tune. They had made a $10 million family musical for Christmas, and in the middle of it they put a 10-minute horror film about a child-snatching predator. The producers, the director, just away wit de fairies, every single one of them. The rest of the film is just chaos. It's Dick Van Dyke with a terrible haircut pretending to be a puppet again. It's Sally Ann Howes singing a 10-minute ballet number, Lovely Lonely Man, to herself in a music box. It's the two Vulgarian spies, who are just awful. It is a bloated 2.5-hour film that at the very end reveals the entire Vulgarian adventure was just a story Caractacus Potts was telling to the kids. It didn't even happen. An absolute hames from start to finish. So, the film is finally finished. It is 2 hours and 24 minutes long. Not counting the intermission. United Artists, the studio, they know they're in trouble. But they've spent the 10 million. They can't not release it. So they double down. They book it into the biggest, most expensive cinemas for Christmas, 1968. The big roadshow release. Fancy tickets, the programs, the whole 9 yards. This is gonna be the event of the year. And it lands with a thud so loud you could hear it in Vulgaria. The critics were not kind. They didn't just dislike it, they took a savage, gleeful pleasure in tearing it to pieces. Pauline Kael, the most feared critic in America, called it the most single-mindedly dreadful, destructive film I have ever seen. She said it was a machine designed to destroy the souls of children. Variety called it a beautiful, gigantic, unwieldy, extravagant disappointment. The public wasn't much better. Families went, sure, but it wasn't Poppins. It wasn't The Sound of Music. It was too long for the kids, it was too weird for the adults, and it was terrifying. The numbers came in. On its $10 million budget, it scraped back maybe $7.5 million in its entire domestic run. It was a financial black hole, a disaster. It didn't just fail to make money, it lost a fortune. So what killed it? Was it the child catcher? Was it Dick Van Dyke's accent? Was it the fact that the entire plot was pointless? Get a way out of that. That's the story they want you to believe. That it was just a few bad choices, a few creative notions. Not a bit of it. The film was a monument to pure egotree, sure, but the real reason it failed is that it was a war against common sense. It was the product of a studio system that was looking in the rearview mirror. See, 1968 wasn't the same as 1964. The audience was done. They were tired of these massive, bloated 3-hour musicals. The same year Chitty came out, Julie Andrews' own massive musical, Star, bombed so hard it nearly killed her career. The year before, Dr. Dolittle, another 3-hour roadshow mess, had been a financial catastrophe. Finian's Rainbow, Camelot, they were all sinking. The entire genre was a bloated beast, and it was dying on its feet. The audience had moved on. They didn't want Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, they wanted 2001, A Space Odyssey, they wanted Planet of the Apes, they wanted Rosemary's Baby, they wanted The Graduate. Cubby Broccoli, the genius behind Bond, had made the most expensive, most elaborate, most old-fashioned film he could, at the exact moment the audience stopped wanting it. He'd built a monument to yesterday's success. As me old fella used to say, you can't sell yesterday's fish. And Chitty, lovely car and all, grand songs, I'll give him that. It was yesterday's fish. It just took us about 30 years of television repeats to forget the taste. So now you know the real story, not the sing-along you remember. Not the magical classic, just the $10 million child-catching car crash from the cutting room floor. Right, I'm off, Sláinte.